I want to take a minute and go over the network diagramming with you. That's the forwards pass and the backwards pass. And I want to walk through an exercise with you so that you can get a better understanding of it. I know it's confusing, but I think it's really important that you understand why we do this and how we do this. The reason that I ask you to struggle through this and to understand it is because it's kind of like adding 2 plus 2. Until we understand what happens when we put 2 plus 2 into a calculator, we understand that 2 things plus 2 things equals 4 things. It's just a program doing the calculation for us. And it's the same way with Microsoft Project. Until we really understand what Microsoft Project is doing, we don't understand scheduling. And so I want to walk through this with you so that you can understand what a critical path is and what float is and how it gets created or calculated. So I've got an exercise for you. I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you, and I'm going to walk through it step by step. So hopefully everybody can have a good understanding by the time we're done. The first thing I want to do is go over the forward pass with you. And that's where we use our early start and our early finish date. Now, the way we do this is by taking our very first number, which will always be 0, and we add our duration to get our early finish. So 0 plus 1 is 1. We're going to carry that 1. We're going to carry the early finish to all of the connected early starts. So 1, 1, and 1. After we do that, we're going to add our durations. So on this task B, we add 2 and we get 3. On this one, we add 3 and we get 4. On task D, we add 7 and we get 8. Okay, that's pretty simple. Now, when we have 2 arrows going into one activity, we're always going to carry over the larger. So we've got a 3 and we've got a 4. We're going to carry over the 4. So on the forwards pass, what I want you to remember is always add the duration and take the largest number. Add the duration and take the largest number. Let me walk through an exercise with you. So this is a little bit bigger one than the one I give you in your assignment. So we're always going to start with 0. And we're going to add the duration, which is 2. We take the 2 and we carry it over into our early starts of the next, and we add our durations, 4 and 6. From here, we're going to take our 4 and we're going to carry it over, add our duration. Here, we've got 2 arrows coming into activity 210, so we're going to look at both of these, and we're going to take our larger. So we're going to take our 6, and then we're going to carry over the 6 over here. That's 8. We've got 2 coming into this one, so we're going to look at both of these, and we're going to take the larger, so 10, and then 12. We've got 2 coming into here, so we're going to look at both of these, and we're going to take the larger, so we've got 10, and that's going to be 14. And we've got 2 coming into here, so we're going to look at both of these. We're going to take our larger, and we're going to make this 16. So our final day of the project, our final duration of the project is 16. Now, what we do when we reach the end is we move our early start and our early finish from our very last activity down to our late start and our late finish, and we do the backwards pass. So on the backwards pass, we take our late start date and we move it backwards. So we put it here, we put it here, and we put it here, and we subtract our durations. So here we take 8, we subtract 2, and we get 6. 8 subtract 3, we get 5. 8 subtract 7, we get 1. Okay, so that's pretty easy. When we have two arrows that come into one task, we're going to take the smaller. So I'll show you this in practice. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the smaller. So in the backwards pass, we subtract the durations and we take the smaller number. So forwards pass, add durations, take the larger number. Backwards pass, subtract durations, take the smallest. Okay, so let's go back to here. I'm going to erase some things so that we don't get too confused. All right, so we've got all of our numbers. So remember, the first thing we do is we move our numbers down. Take these and move them down. Okay, now we're going to take this 14 and we're going to move it backwards. We're going to subtract the durations. 14 minus 2 is 12. And we're going to keep moving back. So here we have 12 for activity 300. We're going to subtract 2. We have 10. We have 2 arrows coming back into activity 210. So we're going to look at this one and this one. And we're going to say which one's smaller? 10. Okay, we're going to take the 10. We're going to subtract the duration of 4. And we're going to get 6. And then we're going to take our 10 back to activity 120. Subtract the duration. We're going to get 8. For activity 110, we have 2 coming back into it. So we are going to look at 6 and 8. Which one's smaller? 6. We're going to subtract the duration, which is 4. And then we're going to, for activity 200, we're going to look at 6 and 10. Which one's smaller? 6 is. So we take the 6, we subtract the duration of 4, and we get 2. Got 2 coming into 100, so we look at 4 and 2. Which one's smaller? 2. We subtract the duration and we get 0. Now that's the best way to back check yourself, is these always have to be 0. Those will always be the same. These will always be the same. These will always be the same. All right. Okay, the next thing I want to show you and talk to you about is total float and free float. Total float is the amount of time that an activity can be delayed without delaying the end date. Free float is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without affecting the next activity in line. So looking at activity number 300 as an example, total float is the amount of time it can be delayed without affecting activity 320. Free float is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without affecting activity 310. How do we figure out what those numbers are? For total float, this is going to equal your late finish minus your early finish. Or it's going to equal your late start minus early start. Either one will be the same. So in this case, we've got 12 minus 8 or 10 minus 6, which both equal 4. So our total float equals 4. Our free float, we figured that out by subtracting the early start of an activity, the next activity in line, minus the early finish of the activity before it. So in this case, it's 10 minus 8. So our free float equals 2. Now, an activity can have 2 free floats or multiple free floats because it might be connected to multiple activities. And so in this case right up here, activity 110 has 2 different free floats. The free float between 110 and 120 is 0. The free float between 210 and 110 is 2. 6 minus 4, 4 minus 4. Okay, so it has multiple free floats. That's possible. Okay, so what does that mean? When an activity has a total float of 0, that means it can't be delayed without affecting the end date. We know from studying that when an activity can't be delayed without affecting the end date, it's on the critical path. So anywhere that we come up with a total float of 0, that means that it's on the critical path. So let's go through here and figure out the total float of each of these. So 16 minus 16 is 0. 14 minus 12 is 2. 14 minus 14, 0. 12 minus 8, 4. 10 minus 10 is 0. 10 minus 6 is 4. 6 minus 6 is 0. 6 minus 4 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So now we have just figured out our total, or our critical path. Critical path is anything that has a total float of 0. Total float, not free float, okay? The total float gives us our critical path because that's the one that affects the end date. So this is our critical path. All right? This should give you enough information to be able to do the assignment, to come up with good answers on the assignment. I know it's confusing, but I want you to struggle through it so that you understand what Microsoft Project is doing when it's coming up with these float numbers for you, how we come up with critical path. When you click that critical path button and different things turn red, why do they turn red? Well, this is the calculations that it's doing for you. It's kind of like, why do we beat our head against the wall? It feels good when we stop, right? Okay, I will talk to you soon.